Hello, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. Hey, on this episode, we're going to be cooking up some fantastic barbecue sauce. Now, I'm getting ready for the 4th of July. I'm going to be making up a whole bunch of ribs, having my friends over. We're going to be having a good time. But I thought, you know, while I'm making this very special sauce, why don't I teach my audience how to make the best tasting barbecue sauce in the world? So this is a honey chipotle barbecue sauce. This is the real thing, folks. This doesn't include any tomato products. This is a chili paste product. And believe me, it's delicious. So come over this way. Let's check out these ingredients. Okay, now let's go over these fabulous ingredients that we have here. And the first thing you're going to want is something to enjoy while you're doing your cooking. Make it coffee, tea, wine, bourbon, beer, whatever it is. Grab yourself something to enjoy while you're in the kitchen. And relax, okay? This is not drudge work. This is fun. Now, oh, that's good. First of all, and this is the star of our whole performance, the chipotle. Now, this is not a canned chipotle, and you don't want to use a canned chipotle for this. What you want to use is this little guy right here. This chipotle chili, this is a dry chili, and what these are, they take a jalapeno and they let it turn ripe, meaning it turns red. And then they take that sucker and smoke it. After they're done smoking it, they dry it out. And here's what you get. It's sort of ugly and it's dry and husky, but on the inside there is a very dark pulp. And we're going to open this up, let water rehydrate it, and then we're going to extract that pulp. We're not going to use any of the skins or the seeds or the stems, just the pulp on the inside, and I'll show you how to get that out. Now, fabulous smoky flavor. These things are delicious. What I have here is a large amount. Remember, I'm making a double batch because I'm cooking up multiple racks of ribs. So I needed a lot of sauce. This is 8 ounces of chipotles. And back here I have 8 ounces of what's called a guajillo chili. Guajillo chilies are fabulous, and these are the center of many sauces throughout Central America. It is fabulous tasting. This chili has been described by some as decadent, okay? And it has this very light, fruity flavor to it that makes it so special, and it's just wonderful tasting. So what we're doing is an equal amount. This is 8 ounces of guajillos and 8 ounces of chipotle. And the reason it looks like there's more of these, well, actually there are, but they're the same amount by weight. And that's because the pulp on the inside of these isn't as thick. So these don't weigh as much as these do, even though this is much smaller than this. It's just more pulpy. So, equal amounts. Now, if you're looking for a little smaller amount, make it 4 ounces and 4 ounces. And that's a really good amount to start with the first time you do this. Our other ingredients that we have, of course, are some honey and some brown sugar. Now, I said honey chipotle. If you might be thinking, why has he got brown sugar out there? I love brown sugar. And brown sugar has the tendency to caramelize really super well when you mix it with some heat. So, when I baste my ribs in the last 10 minutes of their cooking, this caramelizes over wonderfully, and it forms this wonderful crust on the outside of my ribs that's very flavorful. While this gives me that wonderful honey flavor, our clover honey. A couple of other items that we're going to be using, one's for flavor, and this right here is bourbon. If you don't like bourbon or you don't want bourbon, don't worry, just leave it out. However, I'm going to say this, I think the bourbon adds a wonderful and rich flavor to it. It's fantastic tasting, so I like to put it in. If you would prefer something more like, let's say tequila, you could use tequila. So don't be afraid to swap out some flavors here if you would like. How much of this? It's not going to take a whole lot. All I'm going to use in this is maybe 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup for this whole batch. It's going to add a nice background flavor that's really interesting, and people won't be able to really sort it out, but it does make for a much richer sauce. What I have here is some lime juice. Now, the lime juice isn't so much to flavor the sauce. I don't have enough there to do that. The lime juice is actually to bring flavors out in these chilies. When you add certain acids like lime to chilies, it just extracts flavor from them. So these, which are fruity, are going to become that much more fruity. And these are going to take on just a much more robust chipotle flavor, all because of the acid that we're adding. Salt. Salt isn't really an acid, but it reacts with food like an acid. So we'll be adding a little bit of salt to this just to bring out some of those flavors again. Now, let's get down with what do we need to do to make this happen. First thing we need to do is to hydrate these chilies so we can work with them. One thing I do want to mention, if we take a look up here, this is a food mill. Now, you might be thinking, oh God, he's going to sell us some product we don't need. The fact of the matter is, this is something that should be in every single kitchen in America. All right, the food mill is simple. There's a paddle inside that you turn, and there's a strainer on the bottom, and it pushes food through it. It's excellent with one special thing. I can mill things like this after I hydrate them, and it will not allow any of the skin, the seeds, or any of the unwanted parts to pass through, only the pulp that I'm looking for. So I produce a good, genuine, real chili paste by using this simple item that is no more than $20, okay? So go out and get yourself a food mill. They're not expensive. You don't have to have a big or a fancy one. This one's a commercial one, and it's, of course, a little more than $20, but these are a common home item, and everybody should have them. They're fantastic. Go get one. Now, if you don't have a food mill and you'd still want to make this, break out your blender and a strainer. And when I say strainer, you're going to need something, this is a small one, but something on this line to force the puree that you make through that so you don't get the skins in there, because that skin will give it a negative flavor, okay? It's going to make it more bitter. And we're not looking for bitter here, we're looking for smooth chili flavor and that we sweeten up. How much sweetener? If you notice, I haven't mentioned a thing about that. And that's because that is a to-taste kind of thing. So we're going to start with a small amount, you know, maybe a quarter of a cup of honey, quarter of a cup of brown sugar, and then we will increase the amount of sugar in the sauce to adjust it for our taste, okay? And I want you guys to do it the same way, because not everybody likes the same amount of sweetness in their sauce. Some people like it to be a little sweeter, some people like it to be a little less sweet. So this way you get to start out right and adjust it the right way. Let's get on to fixing this up. Now let's get on with slicing up our chilies. And what we're going to do is we're going to open them up so water can get to the inside of them, and then we're going to drop them down into a bowl, fill up the bowl with chilies, and then fill it up with hot water. Now, two ways of doing this, two different kinds of knives. One would just be slice down the center of it and you're done with a chef's knife. The other is you can use a nice paring knife and just give it a simple slit. Either way seems to work equally well. Okay, that one was tough. You see that deep dark color on the inside of that chipotle? It makes the sauce a really dark color, but the flavor is remarkable. It's unbelievable. All right, now what I'm going to do is just sit here and slice open each and every one of these chilies. I'm not going to do them all in front of you, but guess what? That's what we're going to be doing. And it doesn't matter how pretty they are, okay? And if you want to do multiples, have at it. Now notice the way I'm holding my knife. I've pinched it up here, wrapped my hand around it. And when I put my knife down on something like that and put my hand on top of it, I'm simply positioning it. Keep your fingers off of the board, okay? Push down hard and split them open. Does it matter if they're split into little pieces? Heck no. It doesn't matter at all. Remember, they're going to be ran through a food mill. All right, guys. You just have at it. A lot of seeds. Oh, damn nation. Fuck it, I hate it when I do that. Okay, disaster averted. My knife is cleaned. Now for those of you that are watching the Cook Along show, I want to talk to you about this right here and now. It's about this knife safety thing, and I always try to teach this to be safe with these things. I made a really foolish mistake just now. When I set my knife down to clean off the board, I had it sitting like this, and I was cleaning off the board, and my finger touched the tip of my blade. Now, because I keep my blades about 3 times sharper than your typical razor blade, just touching it shot right through my flesh. So I'm wearing a nice little Band-Aid right now, nice and clean. I cleaned it off, put on some antiseptic, and so I'm going to be cooking this with a Band-Aid. Not a big deal, but it's a good lesson and a good reminder for all of us. When you set your knife down, point the edge away from you. That way, little accidents, little foolish accidents just like that won't happen. Those ignorant little mistakes. And the thing of it is I've been taught better and I know better. 40 years of cooking worth of knowing better, and I did something foolish enough as setting my knife down like that. That was dumb. Now, well, I cleaned it up, and I cleaned up my board. We're back to chopping up chilies. Again, let's not be afraid of it. When you fall off the horse, you have to get right back on, okay? Do not be afraid of your knives. And remember, occasionally in the kitchen, you don't pay attention, and you're going to get cut. It happens to all of us. Now, I intentionally included this in the cook-along series so that those who are actually learning this craft will learn the truth about knife safety. Look how my knife went down. Now I can touch things on my board without hurting myself. As far as how did I cut my finger, how bad, it wasn't bad at all. It was just a little narrow cut, more like a paper cut. It kind of felt like a paper cut, frankly. But just a reminder for me to keep my head out of my rear end as I work. Alright, now I've got a bunch of split up chilies. All I have to do is fill this up with hot water and we're ready to go. If you want to boil some water, you can, and it will speed the process slightly. I don't bother. I like them to slowly hydrate and for that pulp to form up really well before I mill it. So what I do is I simply soak it under regular hot tap water, and that's all you need. There we go. Got those in water now. And every once in a while, about every 20 or 30 minutes, I'll come in and take these top ones and shove them down to the bottom, kind of rotate it, and that way they'll hydrate evenly. But basically, this is all we have to do. Give it plenty of time. I wait for mine to hydrate out a lot. Usually I give it around an hour, hour and a half at least. And there's no rush on this stuff. You just start it early, let them sit there and soak, and then later on we get busy making the sauce. And what do you do in the meantime? Oh, that's real easy. You just go and watch the ball game or something like that. Okay, there we have it. Soaking chilies. Our chilies have had plenty of time to soak now. So, and look, this bowl has gotten really, where it didn't seem like there was much in there. They have really taken on all of that moisture. That's exactly what we want. Now, I'm just going to remove any of the stems and seed pods, and you don't have to tear these down just a whole lot, but kind of break them a little bit into some smaller pieces. And that just helps them to mill a little quicker. So, if you would, just go ahead and get your chilies in your mill. Now, if you're not using a food mill, if you're using that blender or food processor, either one, you're going to want to do this. You're going to want to go ahead and separate the seeds and that stem and get only just that portion there. So all you're fighting later is the skin, trying to get it out. So, and that's the reason I like using that food mill, this right here. That little guy is just great because one processing, and it doesn't take long to do it, one turn through that food mill, and there's no skin. All I have is just a pure, beautiful paste. No skin, no seeds, and nothing else. Now, if you're doing the cook-along video and you're watching this right now, then something you might want to know, and this just makes life a little easier, when you're putting all this stuff in the food mill, sometimes it'll fill it up. All you have to do is just crank that paddle a few times. There we go. Now we got plenty more space. So it doesn't take a lot of extra work. Just go ahead and give it a spin. If you don't own one of these, like I said, man, it's crazy not to. For the advantages of a food mill, The best mashed potatoes you get from a food mill. And if you think a ricer is going to work better, I've got news for you. They work the same way, okay? So it's not going to necessarily work better. But a ricer won't do what we're doing here. And that's the advantage. Okay, now I'm going to make you watch all of destemming all of these. So let's go ahead and if you would put yours on pause and finish up getting all of those stems out and getting all of your chilies up in your food mill. We'll move on from there. Well, there we have it. It didn't take that long to go ahead and break all that down and get it in there. And if you're using a blender or a food mill, you have to go to that process anyway. Now, here's our stems that are left behind. Get that out of the way. The food mill, now hang on, I don't want anybody to feel like, well, I don't want to have to go through all of that work. So I want to set my timer here. Start. I'm just going to start counting. And what I'm going to do, I'm not going to show you the whole process on this, but we are going to leave that timer running. So you'll find out that cranking this in a food mill doesn't take that long. And frankly, it produces a fantastic result. Far better than the blender and strainer. So just keep cranking yours down, and we'll see you on the other side. Now I wanted you guys to notice that I'm well halfway through this milling process. And our time, 3:29. So at this rate, I'll have this done in about 7 minutes. It's not a big deal. Give it a shot. Okay, I've been watching the clock down here. Now, what we got, 7:04. Okay, what I have is a bowl, or a mill I should say, that's filled with skins and seeds that I just don't need. And underneath here is the most beautiful, pure, pristine chili paste that a human being could even hope to have. Ah, looky there. And we're not talking a little bit. Look at this. That, folks, is a lot of chili paste. And that's not how much sauce it's going to make. No, it's going to make enough sauce to fill this pot about halfway full. So this stuff really absorbs a lot of water, and it's a fantastic paste to use. And now I don't have any tomato product, 100% beautiful chili product. Look at that paste. Gorgeous, deep maroon colored paste. Now, let's get on with making our barbecue sauce. Okay, now we have our chili paste in hand. Let me knock off the excess off of that. Get it out of my way. Now what I'm going to start doing is to hydrate out this. So we're going to start with 2 cups of water. And remember, this is a double batch is what I'm making here. So if you're using half as much guajillo, the 4 ounces of guajillo and 4 ounces of chipotle, and you're going to be surprised. Now look, there's a see, it's still very thick and pasty. That's after a cup of, or 2 cups of water added. Now I'm going to go ahead and get my bourbon included in that. And I had there right about a half a cup, maybe slightly more. You can use Canadian whiskey, like I said. You can put tequila in there. You can do just plain water. A little bit of that lime juice. About a 1/4 of a cup to start with at the most. And later, if it needs another acid bump, we'll give it some more. Now, more water. I just put in another cup. And it's going to depend on your chilies and how far you hydrated them as to how much water your sauce is going to take. I want to cook this, I want to simmer it so I can have a little extra water. It can be slightly more thin than I need it. Now, I know about how much I use for these, and here I have right at 1/2 cup of honey, and I'm going to put all of my honey in there, okay? But I want to recommend that you start with about 1/4 cup or less before you commit, okay? You can always add honey. However, you can't take it out once it's been put in there. So remember, you don't want it to be cloying. You just want there to be a pleasant sweetness that offsets the chili flavor and what little heat it'll have. My brown sugar, remember about that 1/4 cup amount, there we go. And put some heat under this. I want to start it at a medium low, and when it starts to simmer, I'm going to reduce the temperature. And I'm going to simmer this for about 45 minutes. And it doesn't take a lot of cooking on this, folks. You just want to cook out the alcohol and give it time. And you're going to want to stir this about every 15 minutes, okay? That wasn't such a big job, was it? Soak the chilies, mill them, add a few ingredients to simmer, and you've got some barbecue sauce. Not your typical, normal, store-bought, soaking over with high fructose corn syrup sauce. No. We're talking about the real deal here. Man. It's got this fruity quality. Like I said, that's like guajillo chili. They're warm, but they're fruity, funky kind of way. Sweet. And then that heat just goes over the mouth. Oh man. I only used so much brown sugar. I had just a little bit left over. Maybe a couple tablespoons left. Make it as sweet as you would like it, okay? Make it you. This is a delicious sauce. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today very much. And if you would, please subscribe. To my subscribers, I would like to give you a very special thank you. And you folks, well, you have a good day. Hey folks, thanks for watching Texas Cooking Today. And also, if you would, please subscribe, hit like, and if you would, put me in your favorites. And thank you.